Om Tat Sat. Welcome to Gyan Bhakti. We are currently exploring the scripture Mysticism of Srimad Bhagavatam, commentaries by my worshipful Guruji and narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilanand. So in yesterday's episode, we were discussing Balram destroys Balwal, and we will continue from there. Balram represents the internalized movement that catches hold of that demon of fear and destroys it. Balarama is the symbol of cosmic will, which operates in every individual in the form of his willpower. It is by the help of willpower that we are able to dig into our unconscious with Balram's plow and prepare a fertile soil for cultivating spiritual qualities. As we do so, every now and then obstructing rocks of negative impressions and wrong understandings come up. Then, with the muscle or pestle of spiritual force, we can crush them and continue onwards with our spiritual unfoldment. The next episode is extremely emotional and very profound. The story of Krishna and Sudama. When Krishna had been a young student in the Gurukul, ashram forest school of sage Sandipani, he had a friend whose name was Sudama. After the passage of years, Krishna had become the emperor of emperors in Dwarka, yet Sudama had remained an extremely poor Brahmin, struggling along with his virtuous wife for the basic necessities of life. Despite all their sincere efforts and honest dealings, despite all their knowledge of the sacred scriptures and skill in the priesthood, they could not gather sufficient means to meet the barest demands of life. One day, Sudama's wife recalled how her husband had again and again described the close relationship he had with Krishna as a boy. Thus, she asked Sudama to visit Krishna, who would surely remember him and compassionately give him aid to relieve their abject poverty. Sudama was reluctant to go to Dwarka. However, when his wife urged him again and again, Sudama agreed, if only to behold the glory in his glory and see God. Sudama was reluctant then, but still he decided, is there any little thing that I can bring to Krishna as a present? Sudama asked his wife. In response, she begged some handfuls of rice and made a preparation of fried flattened rice, which she then packed in a little raggedy cloth. Sudama, barefoot and wearing only his tattered clothes, took the package lovingly in his hands and set out to visit Krishna. It took Sudama a long time to reach Dwarka. Finally, however, he found his way to Krishna's palace. Seeing Sudama from afar, Krishna sprang up from his couch and embraced his old friend joyfully, with tears filling his eyes. Krishna then bathed Sudama's feet and anointed them with sandal paste. Krishna's queen, Rukmini, then fanned Sudama as he and Krishna recalled with delight their childhood experiences under the guidance of their Guru. In particular, Krishna reminded Sudama about a particular incident in which they had gone to the forest to get firewood for their Guru. Suddenly, they found themselves caught in a terrible winter storm with fierce winds and torrential rain. Holding hands, they wandered in all directions, finally finding shelter in the hollow of a huge banyan tree. It was not until the morning that they were found by sage Sandipani, who rescued them and bestowed his blessings upon them. Although Srimad Bhagavatam does not go into these details, there is an interesting legend in Indian culture about that adventure Krishna and Sudama shared that stormy night at the Gurukul. According to that legend, when the two shivering boys found shelter in the banyan tree, Sudama felt terribly hungry. He then slyly moved away from Krishna and began nibbling on some parched rice that he had been keeping in his pockets. Hearing the sound of Sudama's teeth crunching the rice, Krishna eagerly asked, "Oh Sudama, what are you eating? Can I have a little of it?" Overcome by boyish ignorance, Sudama really did not want to share his food with Krishna. To hide his selfishness, Sudama murmured slowly, "O Krishna, I am not eating anything. Rather, the cold has penetrated my body and made my teeth shiver out of control." Of course, Krishna knew that his friend was hiding something, but he did not want to embarrass Sudama by saying anything further. So he kept quiet. Now, many years later in Dwarka, when Krishna was the royal monarch and Sudama had come from poverty to behold him, Krishna recalled that episode from their childhood. With the recollection, Krishna suddenly looked at Sudama with twinkling eyes and asked, "What present have you brought me from home, dear friend?" Too ashamed to bring forth that humble bag of parched rice, Sudama merely sat with head bowed down. Without hesitation, Krishna then snatched from Sudama's hiding place in his clothing the little bag of rice and exclaimed, "Ah, this is what I have been always loving more than anything else." Krishna then quickly ate up a handful with the greatest of delights, and his queens also wanted it. After his warm welcome by Krishna, Sudama remained at the royal palace for a few days, enjoying all the tender care and attention, and then he departed. He was so overwhelmed by all the love that he had been showered upon that he did not wish to ask Krishna for anything more for himself or his wife. Just having seen Krishna was worth more than anything in this world. But when Sudama returned home, he found that his entire village had been completely transformed. Wonderful roads, multicolored gardens abounded where once there was abject poverty. His own home was now a magnificent palace, and his wife appeared before him, adored like a queen. Krishna, the knower of all hearts, had known all along that Sudama had come to Dwarka at his wife's request to ask for assistance. Thus, Krishna had arranged this transformation of Sudama's village in a very short time, without ever hinting to his friend that such unimaginable abundance would be awaiting him at home. From then on, Sudama and his wife lived a life of great prosperity with increasing surrender and devotion to God until they attained enlightenment. So with this, we will conclude this satsang today, and we will cover the mystical, deeper meaning of this story. It's deeply emotional, as you can well imagine, how God comes and he cares for all his devotees without regard of their struggles. He knows every little struggle they are going through, and yet he is so compassionate that he does magnanimous things without ever even discussing them. With this we conclude. This is Swami Nikhilanand. Om Tat Sat.